Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is August 9, 2023, and we are getting into the volume 147 of me answering your immigration related questions. As always, before beginning this video, I'm gonna mention I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USCIS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. So let's start with the very first question, comment from Alejandra Hopwood 803. So the only additional documents to send with for I-131 travel document is a passport copy and 2 pictures. I'm doing an AOS concurrent filing. Okay, so it's adjustment of status. Concurrent filing, so I-131 is the application for travel document. Let's take a look. Let's see what the requirements are. Might as well use this as an opportunity to demonstrate some navigation on USCIS, official government website for U.S. citizenship and immigration services, uscis.gov. You can find this link in the description below. So, this is what the front page looks like. We're going to click on Forms right here at the very top of the navigation menu, and then click on All Forms right here. And then you can either scroll down to the form that you want to get more information. This applies for everything on this website. Or you can just simply type in the number of the form here. And there you go, application for travel document available to file online, which is very convenient. I would recommend, definitely, Alejandra, highly recommend submitting it online because it makes it much easier, prevents a lot of mistakes. And also, whenever it comes to required documents, right there, once you are done with the application, you will have the fields to upload the required documents. So there's really like no questions left unanswered. And then with the fee as well, once you pay it, the form is automatically submitted. It's immediately available for USCIS to review it. Makes it much easier, prevents a lot of mistakes too. But as for the required documents, there we go. If you scroll down, this is the each form has their own page on USCIS website. Like I said, this is I-131 application for travel document. If you scroll down, there are some drop down tabs here. We're going to click on checklist for required initial evidence. So there you go. Did you provide the following? For a refugee travel document, a copy of an official photo identity document, so that either the passport or driver's license, something along those lines. Proof of refugee or asylee status, because it's a refugee travel document, obviously. A statement explaining the reason for a yes response to any question in part 6, so that goes to the application, that's specific to the application. If outside of the United States there are certain requirements, obviously explaining, the situation. There's a statement explaining the purpose of your trip, so far so forth. For re-entry permit, a copy of an official photo identity document, evidence that you are a lawful permanent resident. Okay, makes sense. And then they describe things that can serve as, the evidence for, your permanent residence. For an advance parole document for individuals who are currently in the United States, a copy of an official photo document, 2 identical passport style photographs of yourself taken within 30 days of the filing of this application, a copy of any document showing your current status in the United States, evidence that your trip is for educational, employment, or humanitarian purposes. Okay, makes sense if that's the case. An explanation of other evidence showing the circumstances that warrant issues of an advance parole document, a copy of a USCIS receipt as evidence that you filed the adjustment application, AOS. In your case, that sounds like what you did. A copy of a U.S. consular appointment letter if you are traveling to Canada, if that applies, of course. And then advance parole for someone outside of the United States, pretty much the same thing. A copy of a photo identity document, a copy of beneficiary's passport identity page, description of the urgent humanitarian or significant public benefit reason, including documentation of a need for expedited handling, if that's the case, if that applies. Completion of form I-134 with appropriate documentation as described in the form instructions, a statement explaining why the beneficiary cannot obtain a U.S. visa, a copy of any decision on immigrant, non-immigrant application or petition. So that's really it. Depending on which one you're applying to, and that's what it sounds like you're applying for. You're applying for the adjustment status, and you want to have you want to get yourself basically a re-entry permit in your situation. If you already got, but I don't think you got your adjustment of status completed yet, so you don't have your permanent residence yet. So in this situation, it's not going to be a re-entry permit, it's going to be the advanced parole document. That's what you're going to be applying for, and there is a little bit extra documents there that you would need to submit. Now keep in mind one thing that I'm going to mention before we move on to the next comment, Alejandra, is that whatever it is, whether it is a refugee travel document, re-entry permit, or advanced parole that you're getting through this I-131, it does not guarantee the re-entry into the United States. And you know, if you haven't watched any of the videos on this channel, I try to give recommendations, advice with as much of as a safe outcome as possible to prevent any kind of unnecessary risk that can cause any kind of problems in you know, personal situation. And you know, with a refugee travel document, I personally actually had an issue where a person, a friend of mine who went back, and he had a trouble coming back in, and he had the granted asylum, and he had a refugee travel document, but he actually had some issues at the port of entry with the CBP because, well, you know, it's at their discretion. Yes, it's a document. Yes, it shows your status. Yes, it shows that you have a right to enter the United States, but it's still at the discretion of the CBP whether they want to allow that entry or not. So those documents do not guarantee the entry. So if there's a way to prevent traveling until you actually get the adjustment of status and get the permanent residence, then you know, it's definitely is much safer, avoids unnecessary risk. Okay, let's move on to the next question, comment from, let's see, from Guadalupe Marquez 9155. Sir, I need some info on what should I do when my priority is current. F3, my priority date is September 16, 2003. Thanks, sir. Guadalupe, thank you very much for your comment, for your question. Let's take a look at the visa bulletin, see what's going on for F3. Now, you said September 16, 2003. That is a long time you've been waiting now, a really long time. I'm thinking you might be in one of the chargeability areas that takes a very, very long time. Might be Philippines. I'm thinking either Philippines, maybe possibly Mexico, but I don't think you are in one of these categories because, you know, all chargeability area, China and India, looks like they are the same. They're on January 2009, and you are 6 years over that time. So I don't think you're in one of these. I think you're either Mexico or Philippines. Let me know, Guadalupe, if you can, in a follow-up comment. Let me know if you know what chargeability area you're from, what country you're from, and I might be able to give you a little bit more information. But for now, I will do both Mexico and Philippines, and I'm actually going to take a look at the graph B as well. Let's see. So for Mexico, June 01, and then Philippines, November 03, and you said you're September 2003. So I'm thinking, okay, so here's the thing. If you are Philippines, if your chargeability area is Philippines, then you are really, really close to your portal, NVC portal, fully opening up so that you can start your documentary qualification process. The availability of your immigrant visa, which is what is shown in the graph A, you're about a year away from the availability of the immigrant visa, a little bit more. But you are really close if you are from Philippines. You're really close to the NVC portal opening up. I'm sure you already have the login details for the NVC portal. If you don't, I would recommend sending a public inquiry to the NVC and getting those, basically the invoice number and the case number. But I would really, really highly recommend checking out the video that I have on this channel. It's called Documentarily Qualified. What does it mean? And in that video, you can see basically the NVC portal, what it looks like, what is involved in becoming documentarily qualified. Basically, filling out the DS-260, the affidavit of support for the petitioner. You got to pay the fees, some of the fees for the forms, and then uploading some civil documents, financial documents from the petitioner. So that's the things that are, that you would be expecting coming up soon. Now, if you're in Mexico chargeability area, a little bit longer because they're still, they're 2 years behind Philippines on the portal opening up on the graph B, but on the graph A, availability of the immigrant visa, it's a little bit longer, 4 years behind from Philippines, so you got a little bit more time there. But again, if you could, please let me know your chargeability area and I might be able to give you a little bit more details. Just make sure whenever you're posting your response, and that goes for everyone who's watching this video, if you're responding to my question or you have additional questions, make sure not to post them under your comment in response to my comment, because YouTube does not send me those notifications. Just post them as a separate comment. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from K. Krishnan 8824. So K. Krishnan says, my CSPSA age will be over 21 by last week of September. Oh wow, 2023, so it's really close. So you got about a month and a half. If my priority date become current in October 2023 visa bulletin, since the October visa bulletin released in second week of September, yes. Does my F2A freeze in F2A itself or it changes to F2B? Great question, K. Krishnan. Honestly, it really depends on how they will, how the US Embassy, because here's the thing. Since you are already and I'm pretty sure, because I remember your previous comment, and I'm pretty sure you were already documentarily qualified and getting ready for the interview, and then, obviously what we've seen happen with F2A was, threw a lot of people off balance, let's just say that, including you, quite a lot, because you have such a, it's such a delicate situation there. Delicate situation because you're really close and you're dealing with the CSPA, and whenever it comes to calculations, you can't rely 100% just because it's said that, oh, this is it, this is how many days you can calculate. I mean, to the day, they can find their own way of calculating stuff, and I actually seen it. Some of the things that, some of the calculations that they do, you're like, wow, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So there is no guarantee, all right? But because you're already documentarily qualified, US Embassy, they already do have your case. The only thing that they're waiting for basically is for your visa, immigrant visa, your priority date to become current so that they can schedule the interview. Now, whether they schedule the interview once your priority date is current, and whether they decide to count those days that you're waiting for the interview to be scheduled, or even after it was scheduled, be added on top of the CSPA that you already have, the CSPA age, it's a really tricky situation, and they can't do that. And they can schedule the interview, and then a week later, let's say your CSPA age ages out, they can say, oh, your CSPA age aged out, now you're in F2B, and now you have to wait for your immigrant, for your priority to become current in F2B status now. They can definitely do that. There is no freezing. Whenever it comes to family preference categories, and that's the reason why I'm saying all of this, is because there is no freezing with the 4 family preference categories. And it's stupid, I think. Quite honestly, I think this is really dumb that they did it this way. It's really sad. It messes a lot of people up. So honestly, K. Krishnan, the only thing I would say is just pray, hope that that they schedule that interview and you are able to go through that interview and get that immigrant visa before your CSPA ages out, because honestly, and the CSPA, for everyone who's watching, is the Child Status Protection Act, and basically what it allows is there is a way to, I mean, it's really not much. It sounds like the government did a lot for immigrants, who are waiting for family preference categories, but it's really not a lot. Basically, what it is if you're applying for I-130 and the beneficiary, or the derivative beneficiary is under 21, right? And by the time the all the waiting that is involved, all the processing, all the administrative stuff, and obviously the backlog that we're waiting on. By that time, if the person grows over 21 years old, according to the CSPA, what you can do is you can subtract from the amount over 21 the amount the I-130 was pending. So if I-130 was pending for 6 months, you can subtract from overall age 6 months, and if that brings down the person, the beneficiary, under 21, then under CSPA they will be considered still a child under 21. And then obviously whenever it comes to immediate relative categories, then in those categories the age freezes. But really, the freezing of the age, it makes sense if you're, close to, 19 years old, 20 years old. But if you really are, 12, 13, doesn't really make any difference because, well, the whole, whenever it comes to immediate relatives, it only takes about, 2 years, 2.5 years, and if you really are waiting for a long time, or because there is some situation involved. So, okay, Christian, if you can, please come back to this channel. Please provide the update. I think it would be, I would really like to be informed with what's going on in your situation, and I really hope that everything works out for you and that you don't have to wait extra time, because it's annoying. Yeah, it's annoying. This is really dumb regulation. This is waste of time, honestly, because think about it. The person has been waiting already for so long, and then their immigrant visa is available. Just get them through it. Get them through the interview. It's already there. The case is there. Why make it wait longer? Why all of this back and forth scheduling and canceling and doing all of these things? They're wasting their own time and they're wasting our time. That's what I say. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from G Plan 3141. God's plan, I hope that's what it stands for. Do the government do background checks for green card renewal like work history, file taxes? Yes, they do. So when you file an application for a renewal, they definitely do a background check. They schedule a biometric appointment. In fact, you do have to pay a biometric fee whenever it comes to the application for the renewal of your permanent resident card. And it's the same thing. You go, you probably, if you are right now a permanent resident, that you already know how it is. You go to an application service center, fingerprints, taking pictures, so far so forth. Basically, your biometrics appointment. But as for green card renewal like work history and filing taxes, now I'm not entirely sure what you mean by the background check into work history and filing taxes. Whenever it comes to the work history, the background checks that they do is the FBI background check. Now, I'm not sure, they probably do have like a separate category in the FBI background checks that they do check specifically for the immigrants that are applying for certain things, right? Immigration purposes, probably, or it might be the same as all of the other FBI background checks. I'm not sure, but whenever it comes to the work history, I don't think it's included in there in the FBI background checks. I think it's really just a criminal stuff. If there is anything, criminal history involved, then it comes up. Taxes, the same thing. They if you didn't pay taxes and it came up and you were taken to court or so forth, or there are charges against you for like some kind of tax fraud or whatever, then obviously it will come up. But I don't think they get into actual work history and taxes. I don't work for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, so I can't say for sure. But it's criminal. That's really what they concentrate on whenever they do the background checks. That I know for sure. But if they do look in the work history of filing taxes, I don't think so. But again, not 100%. Don't take my word for it. 100%. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from Shinuda Bekit. Shinuda, thank you for another comment. Appreciate it. Haven't heard from you in a while, so I was wondering if everything was good. Shinuda, as you can see, he's one of the top commenters on this channel. This is what the icon means. And a public subscriber. Also, appreciate it, Shinuda. So Shinuda asks, is there any news on videos for green card application, especially for asylees? So Shinoda, no, as far as I know, there is really no updates, nothing new that happened. Let's take a look and see what the form I-485. I think let's double check. I remember if I remember the form correctly. Let's see, 485. Application to register permanent residence. Wow, I'm surprisingly sometimes good with numbers. But let's take a look if there are any updates here. Again, another thing, I'll use this as a demonstration. If, for example, like Shinoda, he's waiting for, to apply for a permanent residence for the adjustment of status. If you want to stay on top, news, anything that comes out, if you go to the specific forms page, like this right here, you will see, first of all, alerts. If there is anything new, anything urgent, they post it as alerts here at the very top. That's the first thing that you see. To prevent unnecessary delay and an adjudication of your form, okay. To improve the efficiency and reduce blah, blah, blah. We may separate form I-765 from form I-131, okay. If you're an Afghan parolee, an approved I-130 petitioner, so if that applies to you, obviously you already know. But what I really like to do whenever it comes to knowing whether there were definitely any updates or not is to scroll down, and the very first drop down tab right here, edition date. And as you can see, it's the most recent one is February 21, 2023, and they will also accept December 23, 2022, which means that from this edition that they have here didn't really change much to this. Nothing necessarily urgent that requires you to file the whole brand new form. So that's one of the ways you can tell whether there are any significant updates to the form or not. But that's it, Shinoda. Nothing new so far. If there will be any news, I stay on top of all the news that come out from USCIS and obviously Department of State. Once something comes up, I'll definitely make a video on it. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from Rahul Kapoor 7703. Sir, I have filed my spouse visa file. My wife is a US citizen. My case was sent back to USCIS from NVC. As there was further requirements was generated by the NVC officials and I was arranging the same in the meantime, they have rolled back my case. Can you, sir, please guide me how I can reopen my case through public inquiry form? Your kind help will be highly appreciated, sir. Wow, Rahul, I never heard of anything like this ever happen to anyone, where the case is sent back from NVC to USCIS. So I'm thinking USCIS, they had to somehow must have messed up somewhere, because why would NVC send it back to the USCIS? I mean, if anything is missing from the file, I mean, they could have just, I guess, asked, the petitioner or the beneficiary, you guys, to upload it during the documentary qualification process, because, well, you are in immediate relative category, because you're a spouse of a US citizen, your wife is a US citizen, so, once the I-130 is approved, the immigrant visa is already available. So I'm thinking USCIS messed up somewhere along the way, sent the case, approved the case, sent it to NVC, and because the immigrant visa becomes immediately available in the immediate relative category, and NVC just couldn't issue it because something messed up along the way, they sent it back. So Rahul, I'm gonna definitely ask you, if you can, please come back to this channel, either under this video or whatever video on this channel, doesn't really matter. Post a separate comment. Don't respond to my comment within your comment. Post a separate comment and let me know what correspondence you got, whether you got it from USCIS or whether you got it from NVC, and what does it say? Because obviously you found out from somewhere, I'm assuming you got, something in the mail saying that this happened, that a rollback of your case happened. I've never heard of this happen before, where NVC sends it back to the USCIS. I've seen problems with USCIS back and forth, problems with NVC back and forth, but not between them two. And looks like you got in the middle of it, which kind of sucks. So if you can, let me know in detail what happened. Do you know the reason why they sent it back to USCIS? And did they tell you what your further steps Because a lot of times, most of the times, if there is a denial or intent to deny or anything along those lines, they give you at the very end your options. Either you can send a cover letter requesting to reopen the case or to review the case once again, re-review, or maybe they're asking for additional documents that you need to send in order for them to do that. Or sometimes they say that you have to appeal it with the Board of Immigration Appeals. So let me know if there are options, and honestly, in your situation, I would highly recommend reaching out and trying to see if, scheduling a few consultations with some immigration attorneys. I do have a video on this channel that talks about how to find a good immigration attorney, and basically it's really remembering that you are shopping around for a service. That's what you're doing. Find, based on reviews, based on online reviews, like 10, 15 attorneys, call them up. The people that you can, the actual attorneys that you can talk to on the phone and ask them questions on the phone during your first call, and they're willing to answer your questions without saying, oh, you have to come in for a consultation. This is the secretary coming for a consultation. It's going to be $200, blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, you don't want to work with that attorney. And I know if you're an attorney watching this, you're probably not going to like it, but this is just the way it is. If you don't have a time for a person who has an urgent matter, who has an urgent situation, if you're not willing to share the knowledge, the blessing that you got from God willingly with people who need help, who call you for help, who come to you for help, then you shouldn't really do business with these people. But anyway, it's a whole different conversation. The attorneys that you talk to, attorneys that you are able to talk to, go for these consultations. Most of the consultations, they are free, because really at the end of the day, there is no point of going for a paid consultation. You're going there, you're telling them the situation. If the attorney can help you, they will tell you what they can do for you. And if they can help you, that's it. You hire them, you pay them for their help, for whatever it is that they're doing, their representation, and that's really it. But if they're trying to get as much money out of you, obviously beforehand, before even hiring you, then is that really someone you want to work with? So definitely do that, Raul. I would highly recommend, because now you are in a very unique situation, and whenever it comes to situations like this, you at least want to have someone ready, just in case if it does go further and you have to deal with the appeals and all of that sort of stuff. You definitely want to have someone at your corner who's ready to step in and help you with that. So I'm going to be waiting for your response. I would really appreciate it. Let me post my comment here, and we're going to move on to the next question, coming from Lauren Robbins 391. Who fills out the reasons for parole? The supporter or the... Okay, so that was a questions, looks like multiple questions on the I-134A, which is the form you fill out for multiple things. And I know they've done quite a few changes already to this form, and that's for program for uniting Ukraine, and also for I think there's 4 countries in there: Cuba, Nicaragua, Honduras, and I think there's another country there. Basically, where a person that is here in the United States of America can petition and sponsor for a national of one of those countries, and the program is open because there is distress situation in the country. So, who fills out the reasons for the parole? So, whenever it comes to filing the form I-134A, it's all on the supporter, it's all on the petitioner. So it is the petitioner. When you're filling out the form, you will be, you are the petitioner. The beneficiary themselves cannot fill out this form. So it is the petitioner filling it out. The supporter or the beneficiary? The supporter. Do we use the Ukrainian passport number or the foreign passport number? Okay, so some of the countries, some of the foreign countries, they do have 2 different passports. One passport is internal within the country, so kind of like an ID or a driver license here in the United States of America, where, if a police officer pulls you over and asks for your identification, you show them, all right? And also, they have a foreign passport, which they use exclusively for international travel, all right? That they don't carry around, that it's not for the identification purpose, it's literally for just international travel. So if Ukraine has if they do have two styles of passports, one internal and one foreign, then you definitely are putting the foreign passport number because they will be traveling with the foreign passport. Okay, if you don't know the beneficiary, do you put unspecified as relationship? Yes. So if you don't have no relationship with the beneficiary, then yes, unspecified. What does the beneficiary need to give to prove their assets? Okay, so that is a little bit of a more of a unique question to Ukraine and what kind of documentation they have. I don't know if they have any kind of like we have here in the United States with with the IRS, where we have to file the taxes each year, and obviously we have all of these records, the tax transcripts, tax returns that we can provide as the evidence for as a financial evidence of our of our income, basically. I don't know if they have that in Ukraine, but that would be the question. You would have to do the research for it for the specific country. In this case, Ukraine. Obviously, you would have to find out what kind of documents would be considered as acceptable to show the financial information. Can this be for one beneficiary and not the children? So I-134A form is for one person. It's always you can only sponsor one person. So if you are petitioning for multiple people, you would have to fill out I-134A for each individual separately. There is no adding derivative beneficiaries on the form. On this form, you cannot do that. So yes, it's just for one person. Okay, so let me pause the response here and see what we got from Kuyato TV. So follow-up comments, almost 1 year, 2 months for now. Thank you, sir. Kuyatoto, thank you very much for providing the follow-up comments. I really appreciate it. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Appreciate your questions, appreciate your comments. I hope my answers were helpful to you. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, let me know. Just make sure don't respond to my comment within your comment. Like I said, YouTube does not send me those notifications. So thank you very much for your time. God bless. I'll see you all in the next video.